In this video I will tell you how to castrate yourself. I'm just kidding. No. But what I will tell you in this video is how the Lacanian castration works in itself. Now, when we talk about castration in psychoanalysis, it's not the same thing that you tend to hear. Now, even though we would have to go to some basics and I would have to explain the odipus complex, what I will do is I will organize the video into two parts. First, where I give the basic introduction towards the Oedipus complex, so we know what you're talking about. And then I will explain you what Lacan means by castration, or essentially what he means by lac. Now, when you talk about the Oedipus complex, what you are usually referring to is the experience of a child seeing that the mother tends to love the father more than the child. And the child gets then envious. What does the father have that I don't have? What makes him to be more loved than I currently am? Now, when you bring yourself into the position of the child, what you want to do is to figure out, how can I get to be as loved as possible? How can I get the most attention from my mother? Now, when a child tends to play with toys, it's not necessarily the moving or the sound or the very meaning of the toy that we tend to have as adults. Toys are tools for the child to get the mother's attention, as the mother's attention is its main desire. So when the child learns that there is something that the mother has more desire and attention to than oneself, it wants to figure out how it can get this desire. When it sees the father being loved more than itself, it wants to figure out, what does the father has, but I don't have. And this is where Lacan comes to use the word phallus. No, and I'm not just talking of phallus in the sense that I'm talking about the dick. I'm talking about the phallus in the sense of this universal attribute which makes one so desirable. But here comes the interesting part. Even if the child wants to become the father so it can be loved more by its mother, it can essentially become the father. The child can replace the father. In some part of its reality, it has to give up its desire to become it. And this is where lac tends to come into its place. Now, you know the basic idea. In order to desire something, we need to need something. In order to need something, we need to lack something. In order to lack something, we have to have lost something. There is no lack without loss. And loss is the thing we believe to have owned, but now come to lack because we disidentify with what we want to experience. Now, this loss is a memory. It's almost like the subconscious idea when the mother loses the attention that one had in the first place. Now, when you see an adult or any elderly person, you don't see them acting like a child, or the way the 1-year-old or 2-year-old would do. It learns, even though I want to achieve my desire, I still can achieve it directly because it would violate the social norms. So in order to achieve my desire, I have to go around it to become desirable in the first place. In this way, I create this imaginary scenario with the big other. The big other is essentially a metaphor for the parent, or for the mother in this case. And it's this idea of the big other, or the mother, that we try to prove ourselves, that we desire the phallus. Or in the sense that to become the phallus in order to feel loved. It's almost this adapted behavior from childhood that we want to recreate in order to recreate this experience. But first of all, there isn't really a mother, except some very adaptations towards how we tend to behave towards the world. Let's say, if there was a certain behavior you were praised for as a child. Let's say you were praised if you articulated yourself. Now, this adaptation towards this attention we created on our unconscious level, we tend to adapt in our conscious adult life, that we want to express ourselves, so because we believe on our conscious level that it would recreate the experience. Even though on a conscious level we know that it's not the case. So the phallus is essentially this experience that we lost due to the loss of identity. But before the loss, there came another thing, and it's the castration. Castration is quite essentially the suppression of one's very deep desires. Now, one thing you may see a lot of psychoanalysis talk about is about sex. And the reason why sexuality is so important in psychoanalysis is it's one of the main symptoms from that desire tends to operate itself. And it's also one of the most suppressed forms that desire tends to happen. Now there's almost this humor around the suppression. It's not that we try to get rid of sexuality, as Michel Foucault would say, but more so we try to pretend that we are suppressing it, creating almost like this irony to it, not entirely to avoid it. Now there's a certain limit to pleasure, and in one of my videos I talk about jouissance. Now, for a quick recap here, jouissance is essentially the limit towards our desires. If we go beyond the pleasure that we're currently experiencing, you'll begin to feel miserable. And it's almost this limit where we allow ourselves to enjoy things. Now, what you have to know about sexuality is that sexuality happens on a level of a symptom. Now, let's say you see a person who's really attractive. Now, this attractive person has a certain quality which tends to excite you. Now, this thing that causes the excitement is not only just this biological drive, it's the symptom that's creating it. There's something about this person that invokes in you to create desire. But in order for desire to happen, there has to be a certain lag that's happening. And for lag there's loss, and for loss there's castration. It's almost this prohibition we created on ourselves that the other person tends to have. It's invoking such a deep experience. In fact, there is no sexuality without castration, in this sense. This is in fact one of the reasons why sexuality is so attractive towards other people. On a subconscious level, it makes us believe that it will make us whole again. It will complete us, or the other person will complete us, as the saying goes. But what it does really complete is that it really reinterconnects us with our past self. It reinterconnects us with our deepest trauma, that this castration that created this prohibition in the first place. So in other words, sexuality is about trying to overcome this castration. Except the best part about it is that it doesn't overcome anything. And no matter how much you would involve yourself sexually, it would not overcome this castration. What it makes us believe is that if we develop this kind of trait that prohibition or castration limits us, it will make us again whole and satisfied. It will justify us towards the big other. Because the symptom that makes us aroused, or the certain quality that the significant other tends to have, is that we think if we get ourselves to own this trait, we will find recognition from the big other, or the mother, thing that causes us to create an object or cause of desire. In fact, this is what makes sexuality so complicated to study, because sexual desire is so deeply dependent on the unconscious mind of the other person. Now, to sum it up, what this video was about is that desire is created by lack. Lack is created by loss, and loss is created by castration. And that sexual desire happens by activating a symptom that reactivates what we tended to have to suppress in the first place, which is the castration. Castration is essentially prohibition. Now, if this would be the only thing that you would memorize, this would be the main point of the video. Thanks for watching.